So, hello everyone. My name is Nick, and I'm a cryptography engineer at Nethermind. And today I'll be finishing this privacy section we have for Stellar with presenting what we at Nethermind, at the ZK engineering team, are building in order to have private transactions in Stellar. Okay. So this is the roadmap of today's talk. We will look through at why privacy matters. I know you have heard it quite a lot from Tom first yesterday, but give me a chance to explain too. I have to do it, sorry. Then we will walk some short history of how private transactions used to be and use these building blocks in order to come to our proposal for Stellar. And we're going to finish with some next steps after our finishing implementing the first phase of our proposal. The aim here is by the end to be able to see the challenges, but also the potential that bringing private solutions to Stellar can have. So, OK, why privacy matters? Stellar is transparency by design, right? You can see all the balances and the transactions on chain. Well, this is great for regulators, and some institutions also love it. But what do we do for personal privacy? It's not, sorry. So Stellar has done some impressive work in order to do keeping a good online, keeping online all the time and having some small transaction fees. But they need to also solve the privacy problem in order to onboard new users. And that's how we're going to help them. So the bottom line is it's great for usability, but terrible for user privacy. So the strengths of openness create this problem. And here we have an example that's a ledger, basically, and we can see that all the transactions are visible to everyone. So this creates the problem that if we want to onboard new users, we need to provide them the same privacy guarantees that they already have in their existing solutions. No one wants, when they get paid, for example, on chain, their boss to be able to see where they spend the salary, or their competitors or neighbors to see how much money they have, or a thief to see what they bought in order to target them. And that's what we need to change. Now, broadly speaking, there are two primary solutions to achieve that, which is confidential transfer that Jay has already presented before me. And I definitely recommend to go and talk to him if you have any questions on the topic. But mostly I will be focusing on privacy pools and how we can build that on Stellar. So, OK, that's CoinJoin. CoinJoin has been one of the first pool solutions that existed in the blockchain. Basically, what people in Bitcoin realized is that Bitcoin doesn't actually provide the privacy guarantees that they promised, because with a pseudo-anonymous address, they can be identified to particular people and break the whole completely anonymity. So what some people decided is that we can group together, we can coordinate, which actually happens most times through a third-party coordinator, and complete one big transaction ourselves. So it would look something like that. So everyone signed the transaction, and then they transmit the transaction, so there is no risk of anyone stealing from anyone. And how would that look, for example? Let's say we have 3 people. One of them wants to buy a boat, one of them wants to buy a house, one of them wants to buy a car. They can all pool their Bitcoin together and buy all the products they need, and you have no way to showing who bought what exactly. So basically, you just see some inputs and some outputs, nothing. Which person did what. The problem with that, though, is in order to work better, and that also applies for most pools, is that you need more people. The more people you're going to have, the better privacy guarantees you're going to have. So how CoinJoin ended up looking like if you want to achieve better privacy is one of the previous users, one of the blue users, needs to find 2 new users, let's call them red, and go to the coordinator again and construct a new transaction. And do that again and again, because the privacy scales exponentially the more transactions they're going to do like that. And as I think most of you are going to realize, it's a bit of a hassle having to coordinate all the time, again and again. So let's see a different example, and that's where Monero comes in. Monero basically said, we don't want the coordinator. And basically, they designed a privacy on by default blockchain that all the transactions are private, and people don't need to have the hassle of the coordinator. They achieve that by having multiple keys and something called ring signatures, which I'm not going to get into it very much because it's kind of technical. Imagine it as like a group of people that they can sign one transaction, and you don't know which person signed this transaction. All of them can do it, but one of them did it, and you have no idea who did that. But the problem with building something like that, even though it works in privacy levels, what do we do if we want to build something on an existing chain, like Stellar? And also, what do we do if we want to have opt-in and opt-out privacy? Like, you don't need all your transactions to be private. Some of them need to remain public because, as I said, like regulators and some institutes prefer that. Well, a prominent solution to do that are ZK snarks, which I'm going to briefly explain for everyone to be on the same page. Ask me later if you want more details, but the gist of it, it's a very cool protocol. What you can do is you can have one party, the prover, prove to another party, the verifier, something without disclosing any information. What most people are going to talk about the ZK snarks is, from the key properties, is the succinctness. Most people use that for, is it just for that and not for the zero knowledge anymore? Which pretty much means that the proofs are very short. And how would that exactly look? As a very abstract example, is thinking about like if I want to open a vault and prove I know the password to the vault without disclosing the password, I can go in, type the password without the verifier looking at the password, and then they can see the door of the vault open. So they see that the door is open, so it discloses that I know the password, but they don't know the password. Then we have Merkle trees. Very fast are cryptographic data structures that summarize a set of items. We're going to need them for later. And they're very cool because you can prove paths very easily. Like here, for example, you can prove that 3 is in the Merkle tree by just needing the purple elements, which is going to be 17, 4, 26, 30, and you can derive the light blue elements very fast. They're cool because you can prove stuff very fast. Finally, we have commitment schemes, which are cryptographic protocols that enable a sender to commit to a secret value and disclose that later. What a very abstract example again of how that would look like is think about having an envelope. I can seal some secret information in the envelope. I can send the envelope to the verifier, and until they open the envelope, they don't know what is inside, and I cannot change what's in the envelope because I have to break the seal, and they can see that the envelope was open. OK, cool. Now we finish with some of the boring part. Let's go to the most interesting part. The next game we're going to present is Tornado Cash, which has some good privacy, but has some problems. We will see as we're building. The first thing you have to do for Tornado Cash is actually derive 2 random values. This is going to be the secret, S, and nullifier, N. You need to commit these values by hashing them and derive C as a commitment. Then you create one deposit node. Let's call it with C and some token value. Let's say we want to deposit 1 XLM. We could derive this deposit node, and we send into the Tornado Cash contract. Now, the contract is going to store the token, insert the commit to the Merkle tree, and store the token that way. So basically, since I mentioned the contract now, it's important to mention something called the nullifier hash list, which is going to become more important in the withdrawal phase, which we are going to see right now. So now how the withdrawal will actually work. The user with a new address, it's very important to have a new address for relatively self-explanatory reasons. If you use your old address, there's no point de-anonymizing anything. Needs to create a proof through a circuit. How that circuit would look like. Here's an example on my left of how a circuit looks like. This is actually the circuit from the Tornado Cash, which you don't need to understand pretty much what it does, but it hashes the nullifier and creates something called the nullifier hash. It reconstructs the commitment, and using the commitment, it recreates the Merkle tree with the root. And also, we pass the recipient's address to avoid front-running attacks. Because if we don't have the recipient inside, we can say that this proof is valid, and someone can claim that the recipient is supposed to be a different address for them and not for the one we intended, so we want to avoid that. Right. So doing that, the user gets back the proof and some public values, which is going to be the nullifier hash, the root, and the recipient. These values are important in order to verify the proof. It sends the proof and the public values to the contract, and the contract verifies the proof. If the proof is verified, then it checks if the nullifier hash is in the nullifier hash list that I mentioned earlier. If it's not in it appends it, and if it's not, it rejects the transaction. Why is that important? Because if we don't do that, because we disassociate the deposit with a withdrawal, there is no way for them to know that this proof was already used. We need to have a way to say that this proof was used so someone cannot resubmit the same proof again and again and claim tokens. After verifying all that, they get back their XLM. So that's pretty much how Tornado Cash works, which is great, and we solve the problem that we're discussing. We achieve privacy. There is no way to link in without, and you de-anonymize the users. But there is one huge problem. There is no way to regulate that. Basically, you cannot tell lawful users with illicit users apart, so you mix people that perhaps people don't want to associate with unlawful activity, and because of that also, Tornado Cash got sanctioned by the US in August of 2022. We want Stellar to be actually used for good, though. We don't want illicit actors to start using the Stellar to hide the funds they have stolen. So we need to bring some regulation in the architecture we saw before. And now we get to what Nethermind is going to actually do, which is going to solve the problem with regulation by breeding association sets as the first phase. Basically, association sets can allow users to de-anonymize themselves, but also by proving that their funds came from lawful sources, or by providing an exclusion proof that their funds didn't come from a list of unlawful addresses. And these association sets can be pretty much everything. It can be a subset of all the previously made deposits. It can be a set of all the deposit of the user, or it can be like a set of addresses that were derived by KYC exchanges. So only KYC people can be inserted in the proof. This lets the users demonstrate honest behavior while keeping their identities private in a compliant, aware approach to privacy. Okay, and let's see how that would look like, pretty much. The user, again, right now needs to create, using, again, zero knowledge, a membership and non-membership proof. And the way it's going to do that, we're going to see it a bit later, but he gets the proof, and then, as before, it constructs the deposit node the same way, but now it includes the proof. Now it sends all these things to the privacy pool smart contract, but the contract does the exact same thing, but also right now checks the proof using Merkle tree roots. And that's pretty much it. That's all the thing we had to change. And the withdrawal looks pretty much the same. Let's look at an example of how that would look like. When we register for the Meridian event, we got the registration details that had the hash number. That was the registration number. Let's say that this number is unique and secret to each speaker. We can take this number, construct a Merkle tree with all the speakers, and then the user can create a proof that they know a number from the registration. Here it's important. We don't want to disclose this number because it's going to be this speaker, and we're going to de-anonymize the user. We construct a proof that we know a number that's actually in the tree, and then we follow the same process as before. We construct the deposit node, we submit it to the smart contract, and then the smart contract checks if the proof is in the association set. So what we managed to accomplish here is having a pool with only speakers. And obviously, I guess we can trust the speakers because we know who they are, and they are lawful people, and they are not engaged in any illicit activity. So basically, what we managed to do is construct a privacy-first solution for users that also follows the necessary regulations and compliance rules set by governments. And that's part of what we're going to build for phase one. Our phase two is going to support view keys, which pretty much is keys that can be either partial, you can provide to an auditor limited access to your information for a short period of time to see some transactions, some information from your account, or you can provide full view keys that basically they get the full information for all of your account. And the phase three is going to be a compliant in-pool and outbound transfers. Like the problem right now we're going to have with phase one is that it's going to be kind of hard to do transference inside the pool, because if I want to send money to someone that's inside the pool already, how are they going to prove that this money actually came from this association set? They need to go outside, reconstruct a new proof, which becomes a hassle. A way to solve this problem is by something really cool called recursive snarks, which you can actually prove that you can construct a proof that the coin came from a specific previous one. And that way, you can prove that this coin came from this coin came from this coin came from this coin, and this coin came from this association set. And that's how you have in-pool transfers. The goal of the final system is to have a privacy for individuals, auditability for regulators, and to be adoptable for institutions. And thank you, and I look forward to your questions.